And one person that was always there for all the funerals, and that was Father Pat Maloney. And I want to introduce the saint of the Lower East Side, Father Pat Maloney.
May I first ask you to have just a moment of silence in memory of the glorious 10 men, Bobby Sands and his glorious companions, who were ruthlessly murdered after a long life of torture by the Butcher of London, known as the Iron Lady. May God grant glory to our glorious martyrs. But let us remember, they speak about the Iron Lady. Iron, there was nothing iron about her. She was sullied, dirty, stained steel, with a heart of steel. A heart that allowed 10 vibrant young Irish men die slowly the torturous death of hunger strike. She was the woman who denied our Irish men the right to human dignity and the status of political prisoners. And let us look back for a moment. If a man is a common criminal in any country of the world, he's given a fair trial at least, a jury of his peers, and can call witnesses on his behalf. But our men were picked off the street, lifted is the word they used back in the occupied zone, dumped into not prisons, but internment camps, not allowed the opportunity to challenge witnesses on the very word of the special branch, or even that would be in the south, but in the north, the B specials and the others, on their very word, these men were interred and tortured. I'd like to read to you from the words of Bobby Sands a few lines. It is frightening to see men become aged at 18 and 19. Young men who are fit and strong in mind and body a year ago now resemble shrunken skulls of human beings. Every aspect of the H-block life, from cold, empty cells and denial of every comfort, to refusal of medical treatment, is designated to grind down our resistance. But it will not succeed. They may hold our bodies in the most inhuman conditions, but while our minds remain free, our victory is assured. That was from Bobby Sands while languishing in his prison cell. Now we can look at the hunger strikers for a moment. Imagine the torture of the mothers who lost sons, the wives who lost husbands, the children who lost their parents, and all because they asked to be recognized for who they were. The freedom fighters of Ireland, attempting to finish what had started in 1916. Thatcher was a butcher in the same lineage of Lloyd George, who, after the Civil War, threatened that if we did not sign the treaty, they would annihilate our nation. And our men had no choice. Some of them, but not all, including my father of blessed memory, did not lay down their arms. They hid them until another day would come. And then we had, followed of course, Churchill. Another one they lauded as a great man. And Churchill threatened the then Taoiseach of Ireland and said, if you do not give up your ports and support Britain, they threatened us again. Again, without much success. Now we can roll history on to the time of Margaret Thatcher. And as was mentioned before, when the Belgrado was sailing away, after it had agreed to leave the Malvinas, Argentina, she blew them out of the water, leaving Argentine women without husbands, children without fathers. Then, when good, honest, decent British citizens from the different colonies reached the time that they could come back to Mother England to look for prosperity, British citizens bearing British passports, they became indentured servants, similar to slaves in their so-called motherland. And when they went in the streets in peaceful protest, Thatcher referred to them as thugs, thugs, thugs. We can refer back to her as murderous, murderous, murderous. That's who she was. Now, it might sound strange, and maybe a little contradictory, that a Catholic priest would speak so vehemently and strongly. But when you look into the eyes of the mothers of some of the hunger strikes, I had the great privilege of doing the Mass, the 10th anniversary of the hunger strike in St. Patrick's Cathedral. Members of the Sands family and members of other hunger strike families were there. The pain was still there, and I'm sure those who are still living, that pain continues forever. This was the pain inflicted by the woman that the Queen of England should call a lady. By the longest shot of the imagination, you could not call this woman a lady. She was ruthless. But then again, the gospel tells us we must forgive. But remember, forgiveness is not unconditional. Forgiveness is based on the willingness to say I'm sorry, to repent, and to make restitution. Thatcher never made any even attempt to apologize or say sorry to the Irish. Bobby Sands would like to speak to you from his throne in heaven. There is a beautiful poem he wrote called Poetic Justice.
Where's that coffin?
It was the strangest dream, sure enough, of all I've ever had. I dreamt I'd left this life, and to be honest, I was glad. And so I felt my soul ascending. I looked down to whence I came, and all I saw was nakedness, suffering, and pain. I proceeded farther. When we reached the Golden Gate, where the Lord sat on his throne, and Peter called upon me to come to show them alone. Bob, said the Lord, you've done all right down there, of torture, pain, and suffering. Don't I know you had your share? Let him in, Peter, said the Lord, and go in peace, my son, for the Lord your God forgives you, and everything you have done. Well, I was a happy soul, for the good Lord had forgiven all. I was just about to collect my wings when I heard Roy get his call. Mason Lord, said Peter, I think you know him well. and by his colour of his soul, he has plenty to tell. Peace be with you, Lord, said Roy. And now, the same Lord is saying to Thatcher, peace to you. Have you anything to confess? Yes, Lord, Thatcher said. You must believe me. It was Cromwell that made the mess, and Merlin, Rees, and Winslow. They led me far astray. Lord, what else could I have done there? I could find no other way. That's what probably Maggie is saying before the throne of the Lord tonight. She's probably copying a plea. She's probably saying what the Nazis said at Nuremberg. I did my duty. I served my king and empire, my queen and empire, a blood-stained, ruthless, vicious empire that thought nothing but the glory of the crown and their own, filling their own coffers and their safes with the gold of the world. And what about H Block? The Lord said to Maggie. And all those naked men you kept. Don't you know, said the Lord, I watched them, and every night they wept. You tortured them, and you held them all those years, naked and suffering. They wept a million tears. What is to be done, said Peter. My Lord, you must contrive. Poetic justice, Peter, said the Lord. And to Thatcher, send her down to the H Block 5.